the most balanced teacher with the most imbalanced students. Mrs. Kinney trained in classical Hindustani music and physics, devoted her entire life to nurturing curiosity and creativity in young minds through music, storytelling, and learning, has had a massive multi generational impact on students in Bangalore, across the city, across generations. You got Abhishek Lakshmi Narayan, who has a full time job, but also so inspired by Mrs. Kinney, starts a book center of his own and page turner on MG Road. And when you see Mrs. Kinney interact with anyone, no matter what the age is, you know why she's special. And today you're special because you were the first person to read the book. So we look forward to your insights into your journey reading the book, Mrs. Kinney. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Darius. Lovely. Thank you, Darius. I've known all these kids, Darius, Abhishek, who he referred to just now, since they were this high. Yeah, okay.
I still am.
You still are, but in various capacities. Darius very much in theatre, Abhishek as a student in Aditi. So it's totally delightful to have them in the audience. And now let me get to the point about this book. I think I'm not exaggerating if I say that I was completely blown away by this book when I read it. I think I read it in one fell swoop. I couldn't put it down. I was just so thrilled to have this narrative from a young person. He started writing the book when he was 14, I'm right? At 14 years old, correct. And I was so admiring of everything that Ishan had managed to do in this book. And I thought, if I'm introducing the book today, for me, it's a great honor to be asked to do this. I thought I should share with you all what was my biggest takeaway and the questions that came to my mind. How did Ishan become so passionate about wilderness and the wild? How did he write in a way that is practically lyrical when he was so young? How did that develop? Also, as you will see, if all of you, anyone who's read the book or is going to read the book, I was very admiring of his persistence, his patience, and his perseverance in everything that he did, including writing this book. You know, you expect, you get these wonderful moments of inspiration. You start something, and then, tuss, it goes, and then you don't do very much more after that. But he stuck with the idea. He wrote, he published this book. And again, what is amazing is that all the pictures in this book that are his own sketches. So I said, gosh, how gifted can one child be? And also the photographs are his. That is not so surprising because I know that his father, Shanavas, is a brilliant, brilliant photographer. So I suppose it's both the genetic and environmental that he has also become such a good photographer. But these are the questions I started with. And so the introduction to this book, and tell me if my time is up and you need to start, okay? I wanted to answer some of these questions. And the first thing he talks about very early on in the book is the diversity of his upbringing. So I've known Priya's mother from the time I was growing up. And so Priya speaks Konkani. She is from Karnataka and so-called Hindu, okay? And his dad, Ishan's dad, as many of you may know, Shanavas, is from Kerala and he's Muslim. So, this kind of upbringing where he gets a flavor of both languages, both cultures of two states, as well as two religions, leads to a very beautiful thought that he expresses in this way. Maybe the diversity of my upbringing steered me towards the diversity of the natural world. In nature, these superficial boundaries crumble. You aren't left with any cultural constructs, only the strict laws of the wild. So I love that sentence. That's why it answered for me quite a few questions about how he was so inspired in many ways. Also, the kind of parental support that he got the moment they discovered that he was interested in the wild. My parents fueled my growing passion for the natural world. At home, Ma watched National Geographic TV shows with me, patiently listening as I explained how lions hunted down their prey. Papa bought me realms of encyclopedias and wildlife photo books that I spent hours ogling. My young brain couldn't comprehend that these bizarre creatures actually existed. So you see, it starts. So I should tell these young children who are here, Amara, Ayana, that some of these things are wonderful. They open up a different world when you look at these films on National Geographic, you look at these books. I remember the same fascination, but I didn't get as far as Ishan did. I just stayed with the books. My parents took me to wild spaces when they could, from the tropical Western Ghats to the snow clad Himalayas. So, if you have that kind of exposure at a young age, you can imagine what happens outside the books, right? And then they went often from Bandipur, they went from Karnataka to Kerala and went through the Bandipur Tiger Reserve. Deer grazed by the roadside, sometimes with boisterous elephants and wild boars in their wake. They weaved through the bushes, scanning their surroundings for a spotted or striped cat on the prowl. So all these kind of exposures, including his parents getting involved with the Ladakh Water Conservation Project, you can imagine how it fueled this already latent love of the wild in Ishan. I want to now move to the second point, which is his vivid style of writing. Experiencing moments with your senses as you read. So here is a small description. It was early in the morning. A faint orange glow flitted through the windows. Dust swirled in the shafts of light. Everything was fuzzy, somewhere between night and dawn, and I love the next bit, between dreams and consciousness. That's a very special moment. I've always tried to catch it, not succeeded. The early hour, the comfort of my blanket, and the rhythmic squeak of the fan crinkled my eyes to sleep. So it's such a vivid description, right? But then I slowly remembered. I was in a boarding school right next to the jungle. This wasn't a dream, it had to be real. But then that would mean heartbeats turned into war drums as my eyes flew open. Bewilderment banished my sleep, for before me was a full grown, and I'll leave you to find out what it was. Okay? So the other thing that really nurtured Ishan's love of the wild was the nurturing school environment. Um, while on the subject of schools, I can't resist the temptation to say this because I worked with a lot of schools, I worked with a lot of teachers, that, the number of exceptional people that have emerged from Rishi Valley is enormous, right? There is something that, yes, there is something that inspires people to into lots of areas that many people would not ever go into. They'd be worried about, how do I make a living with this? I mean, that is the first problem everyone has. But here, that environment is such that I know so many people who've taken to wonderful, wonderful ways of life. So I want to read a little bit from this. As a fresher, I learned that students traverse the forested valley daily as part of their routine. Soon I could see how the wild blended into their lives, called or uncalled for. On school days, students woke up at 6 a.m. to the songs of peacocks streaming down the hills. Chased out of the hostel by the house parent, they rushed to the football field for the morning PT, where everyone warmed up for the 5-kilometer jog to come. Squads of students ran into the sun's fiery blaze as it rose in the distance. Songbirds called in from all quarters, while the odd eagle flew past above. The joggers passed under a tamarind tree where 2 owlets were permanent residents. So you can see how beautifully he's described it, of course, and how this environment was enough. I keep saying that in Rishi Valley, I was reprimanded downstairs. Someone said, don't say valley, say Rishi Valley. Okay, I've remembered that. Uh, but I am also familiar with Valley School, Bangalore. And very often when I go there, I think, you don't need classrooms here. You don't need teachers. You just need this environment. That's enough. And you will get the best education from what this place has to offer you, because it's just so beautiful, as you could make out in this little excerpt that I read. I'm going to finish the introduction. Sorry, it's taken quite long. With what happened during the pandemic, and we were just saying, Darius and I, that the pandemic changed a lot of things for a lot of people. And here, it did its bit for Ishan as well. He started 3 very important things at that time. One was his going into sculpture. And there is a sculpture of a tiger here, which is photographed in this book, which is exceptional. You wouldn't think it was the work of a newbie in that art. At least that's what I felt when I saw it. The other thing that kept him sane was writing online. So, after scrolling through YouTube, Ishan stumbled upon a maverick named David Perel. He championed the idea of starting a blog. His premise: by writing online, you could build an audience and connect with like-minded people worldwide, and that's what he started. The third thing, which is again not surprising, but which he engaged in with a lot of interest and developed, is portrait photography. So even the constraints of the pandemic helped Ishan to grow into a very serious wildlife enthusiast, more than an enthusiast. I don't know what else you can call him. He is now spreading this to so many children, 25,000 children already, across schools. So important to understand the wildlife which exists around them. They don't need to go into the jungles, right? Um, and I think he's doing an amazing job. Thank you very much for this opportunity to introduce him. And now you will have the real stuff with Darius, who is a brilliant, brilliant um, speaker, actor. You haven't seen his acting. He was the dormouse, we were just saying, in the Mad Hatter's Tea Party. I remember him very well. Uh, he kept falling asleep. Don't do that now. And please go on to the next part of the conversation. Thank you so much.
In true Socratic inspired Mrs. Kinney style, she's left us with more questions than answers. The good news, though, is that we've got Ishan with us. By the way, my name is Darius Sunawala. I will be helping us navigate through this evening, but I'm not important. The person who is important for us today is this 22-year-old adventure artist, writer, sculptor, philosopher, guide, the hero of the moment, a man who, boy, man. It's interesting though, because the book is his journey from boyhood to manhood, from tame to wild, more innocent than Linklater's Boyhood. A beautiful, beautiful, honest, visceral book. The author, Ishan Shanavas. So, Amazon #1 bestseller already. You're not even 23 years old. What's changed for you, Ishan?
I thought that if I hit the bestseller list, life would change dramatically. But the next day, I woke up and the sun still rose in the east and set in the west. I realized that that is just ultimately a label, and I think labels are the most empty words in our vocabulary. So it didn't change as much, but I can say that a lot of opportunities have come inbound, and I think that's what I'm grateful for.
All right. So before we get to the book, I think it's interesting to understand where the book comes from. I see some lovely Neve kids over here, so they already know what OPCVL means. So you've got to start with origin first before you look at purpose and content. So we'll start with the origin because this book is about growing up. And it's particularly in exciting as a reader to watch you journey from your childhood in Rishi Valley, an incredible place that celebrates the intersection of civilization, education, and nature in a beautifully harmony that they've created. What was that school life like? By the way, to the parents, what serendipitous placing for him in Rishi Valley, right? I mean, like you put him on this highway to where he is now. But what was your childhood like in school?
I think for those who haven't been to Rishi Valley, it's a very hard place to describe. It's a school that is tucked away in a valley surrounded by forested hillsides. It's almost like Hogwarts. You need to know how to get there. Otherwise, you could just drive past it and not know that there's an entire community just hidden beyond the hills. I will say that this school is spread across 360 acres, so you can imagine, and half of that is just jungle. And cleverly enough, they put the boys and the boys' hostel right next to the jungle. And so it was a life where I went to school and stared out the window and saw snakes and birds and so on. It's really a school where I lived next to wildlife and studied next to wildlife. And I think that has played a big part in who I am today.
Yeah, you're not telling us the full story. He didn't see snakes, he caught snakes, and one evening, to experience what it's like, he made one of the snakes bite him. At which point his parents regretted the serendipitous path they had put their son on. Many doubts must have arisen. But we will get to the snake biting story. But it's beautiful as you recount all these stories of spotting your first pitta. Yes? Do you actually remember this moment? Which pitta was it?
It was the Indian pitta, and it was next to the gate at school. Yeah.
The Indian pitta's the gray.
No, it is yellowish with some green and so on. And when it flies, you can see a strip of blue. It's beautiful. Just
So
like me.
what's your favorite bird?
What is my
By the way, in the book, there's a picture of my favorite bird, which is the orange minivet, and you have a wonderful photo of the minuet in flight. So what's yours? Trogon.
No, I think my favorite bird is a small little bird, perhaps as big as this glass, called a spotted owlet. So this bird has the most outlandish look. Like the way it looks at you, you would think that it's shocked because it just looks at you like this. And what happened was next to the senior school building, there were a few owlets that were always in residence. And I would sit at class and I made sure to take the desk near the window and I would just look outside and observe the owlets to just pass the time. So I think those birds and I connect on a deeper level.
How lovely. You know, we're talking about the campus. I want to talk about your teachers. How incredible is it to study in a school where your teachers can differentiate between a venomous and a non-venomous snake? Like, there's a wonderful story of the cat. Can you tell us the story of the cat and the snake? That's your first introduction to the violence or of the brutality of nature and the intersection of domestic and wild.
Okay, so this was before Rishi Valley when we happened to go on a school field trip. And what happened was these field trips were sort of on the outskirts of Bangalore. And I happened to see a domestic cat, a pet cat, attack a bronzeback tree snake. So I didn't know it was a bronzeback tree snake at the time. I just knew it was a snake. And I knew that it was non-venomous. That much I knew. And I obviously wanted to stop this massacre. Like this cat was clawing the snake, blood was spurting everywhere. It was actually pretty traumatic. But as I went to sort of stop this from happening, my teacher held me back. And right now, with the benefit of hindsight, I can say that he was coming from a good place. He thought that I would get hurt by stopping it. But I knew that if I stopped that, then an innocent life would be spared. Unfortunately, I had to watch as that snake got ripped to shreds. And I remember this one moment where my teacher said that that's nature, when in fact that is not nature. Pet cats are a menace to wildlife. And whenever I say this to someone with a pet cat, like that friendship ends. Uh, but it is true, these creatures, pet cats, end up killing a lot of native wildlife. And that's something that pet owners should keep in mind. And so I think that moment and seeing that this incredibly qualified and decorative teacher didn't know that the difference between a domestic cat versus a wild animal. I think that showed me that there's a general lack of awareness when it comes to wildlife. And I'm setting out to change that.
Which we should talk about both. So this was before Rishi Valley, this experience. So how old were you in this moment when you see this happen? Because I thought you were 14. I thought you were already in Rishi Valley at the time.
No, I can't tell it. One maybe in my double digits, but I can't say one. Yeah.
And the fact that you're setting out to change this within society with Eco Inspire, which is wonderful. There's a lovely video on it on YouTube, which I'm sure we can watch at some point. All right, so if we can watch it at some point, because I think this journey of the book is incredible, but the journey that you're going to have with Eco Inspire is so impactful. But let's get into the book, right? I can clearly remember where I was sitting when I heard and watched the documentary where Richard Attenborough ends by saying, "And this is my witness statement," right? And you've seen this 93-year-old man chronicle himself from childhood, like almost a century of footage you watched through. And he says, "And I've seen this change, and this is my witness statement." And I was really reading this book, you will have so many moments when you get a lump in your throat because it's so honest, it's so beautiful. And you start your book by saying, "Consider this my initiation." And I really feel like I'm watching one person move and the new come in to take his place. And is that what you see for yourself?
Yeah, I think we are at an interesting point in history where a lot of these stalwarts are now in their 90s and sadly they'll move on soon. And it is up to my generation and the next generation to pick up the mantle and carry forward the work that they have done. So, I mean, there are many names: David Attenborough, Dr. Jane Goodall, who recently passed, and so on. And I am proud to carry the torch forward. And hopefully, we'll get more people to carry it on the way.
I grew up on a farm in Banarghatta and in Ooty, so I've had a lot of exposure, and I've met many naturalist people. From Rom Whitaker, actually, I met your dad over here when they were releasing their book. But I promise you, with all honesty, I have never met someone as special as Ishan. And when he says he's going to carry the torch, I truly believe it. It fills me with hope for the future. So I wish you all the best. But wait. But let's talk about moments in the book. All right. So, snake catching. You went to Kalingamane. That's right.
Yes.
And you've got a king cobra. How many people over here have actually seen a king cobra? Unlikely in the wild. In the wild? No. Yeah. At a camp. Yeah. These are massive, massive reptiles, right? They're huge, and we all know the story that when they raise their hood, they can look you in the eye, even if you're 6 feet tall, right? I mean, like it is scary as hell. And you had a really exciting moment with one of them while they were shedding their skin. Tell us.
So this was to just set the context. My school, Rishi Valley, had taken a bunch of us to Agumbe. Agumbe is in the thick of the Western Ghats in Karnataka. It's perhaps the rainiest region in Karnataka, and for that same reason, it is the king cobra capital of the world. There are a lot of king cobras in this region, and I happened to visit with my school, and I got so enamored by the place and just the sheer diversity of life that I ended up volunteering there over many years. I still go there now. And so when I was 15 years old, 14 or 15, my first assignment was to follow a king cobra. And the head of the research station, Dr. Gauri Shankar, told me very clearly. He said, Ishan, if the snake goes inside the jungle. So the snake was camping. It was just after the mating period, and the snake was resting. This male was resting near a farm. And so I happened to sit on this man's property and watch the snake. And he told me very clearly that if the snake goes inside the jungle, you also go inside the jungle. And if the snake goes inside that river, you also go inside the river. Wherever the snake goes, you have to follow it. And I remember this lovely moment when I told a friend of mine that I had to follow a king cobra. And he looked at me and he said, Ishan, Tata, goodbye. Right? He was convinced, especially because I was sitting pretty close to this animal. Let's say the king cobra is where the camera is at. I was actually pretty close. Maybe where Anna is, I was sitting this close to the king cobra. And it was understandable for him to think that this snake would bite me. And yet, for the couple of weeks that I spent with this snake, I felt at peace. I felt the most safe that I ever could because I was with an animal so similar to myself. And what happened was this snake, soon after mating, began to like outgrow its old skin, and it began to shed. And what happens is when these snakes shed, they become blind, right? The scale that covers the eye ends up becoming milky, and these snakes can't see. And I thought there was something really poetic about this snake shedding a part of itself as it grew. And I feel like all of us have to do that at some stage of our life multiple times over. And so that's where I really saw part of myself in the snake. Yeah.
That is so beautiful. And of course, after you've seen a king cobra and realized how dangerous it is, what's the next thing you do as a teenager? Try and get bitten by one, right? And this is a true story. So I'm going to quote Rom Whitaker by reminding everyone, especially the children over here, there is no badge of honor in saying you've been bitten by a snake. But if you're ever in the presence of someone stupid enough to have tried it, you want to know more. So tell us, Ishan, tell us.
So on this one particular occasion, it was I think I was in the 11th standard, and it was a Sunday, so we just had lunch, and the rest hour is when we all just sleep and digest the paneer. And it just so happened that after eating, a couple friends of mine, the girls near the girls' hostel, happened to see a cobra, and so I went and I saw the snake, and this was quite fun. And so I saw the snake, and I came back, and as I was resting back in the boys' hostel, I saw another snake climb up the grill. And you can imagine, obviously, it got me really excited. So I turned on the lights, I went close, and I saw that the snake was actually inside the room. So somehow it got inside. And please believe me, I'm not trying to sound like a wise guy, but believe me when I say that when I saw that snake on the inside, I lost control of this hand. And I just watched my hand go and grab the snake. And before I knew it, I had the snake in my hand. And I have to say that most animals that I've held have not liked it. So this snake was writhing in my hands. I could almost feel it breathe within my hands. And so
Let's just pause over here
yeah.
and just remind them that you identified exactly
Yeah.
what the snake was before
Yeah.
you did this.
So I knew. So I'd been doing this for a couple of years. I could, especially in Rishi Valley, I knew what snake. Like I knew all the snakes in the valley, and so I knew that this was a bronzeback tree snake. It's perhaps the most common snake in the valley, and it's non-venomous. And that's how I think my hand knew that, and that's why I went and grabbed it. And what happened was obviously I didn't do it well enough. I did not do this gently enough. And so the snake turned, bit me over here, and bit me over here. And then it started chewing on this finger and it left a couple teeth in my finger. Yeah, I don't recommend it, no. No. Yeah.
And there's 10% of this audience that is like feeling your pain, but there's a good 60% that's thinking, how did you react when you got that call from the school saying your son's been bitten by a snake? Right? Must have been the most panicked you'll have been, right? No, they don't seem very panicked. I think
No, 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 no,
I
no,
think
no,
this
no,
was
no,
a
no.
long-term plan of theirs with
No,
you.
no, 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 no. They were, everyone and their mother was so pissed off with me that I caught the snake, especially the teachers. I remember the next day after assembly, all the teachers gathered around me. They literally queued up to scold me. And so I would hear the same scolding as if on, on repeat. And I would be like, yes, thank you. Oh, sorry. No, sorry. And then the next one would come and scold me again. But I have to thank my principal because she was the only one who was quite cool with it. And she like, so it's finally happened, is it? And I said, yes. Yeah. So she and I, because she was also a wildlife person, so we got along very well.
Your principal
Yeah.
and Jyoti Didi were the two who were very excited that you allowed this to happen. Am I right?
I mean, that's the same person, Jyoti Akka.
Oh, Jyoti Akka
Yeah,
is
the principal.
is the principal.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't put that. I thought because you quote her as Jyoti Akka, so I thought she was
No, so
one of the.
in Rishi Valley, you fondly call all the women teachers Akka instead of ma'am
Okay.
or auntie, which is what I used to call in my previous school. In fact, my principal is over here, and I'm so honored. Thank you for coming.
Oh,
And yeah, please can we give a round of applause for her? Yeah. Yeah. And so switching from auntie to Akka was quite a shock.
and what do you call the male teachers?
Sir.
S-
Yeah,
Aha!
yeah.
Bloody sexist that is. Lady means Akka.
Yeah.
Man means sir.
No, but to be fair, all of them were graying a little bit, so I think Sir was a more
Ageist and sexist.
that's who we were.
We've spoken of your fundamental core moments of with the snake. I know we haven't really alluded to, but one of the things that triggered you on this journey was your first spotting of a tiger in Bandipur. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
So actually, let's go there. Let's compare your first spotting of a tiger to your second spotting of a tiger, and how these two were so different.
So if you are to understand me as a person, you need to understand what happened in January of 2017. This was before I joined Rishi Valley, just shortly before, where I happened, just like another tourist, happened to go on a safari in Bandipur Tiger Reserve. I just happened to go there because my dad had some work there. And we ended up seeing a tiger, and this was a very visceral moment. I can almost feel the goosebumps on my hand form because this was really the moment where my life changed. Because there was this lovely moment where this tiger walked onto the road, and for 2 seconds it stopped and it looked at me. And it felt as if this tiger was staring into my soul. I knew as I looked into the eyes of that animal that I had to spend my life championing their cause. And so, this being such a powerful moment in my life, I thought that the next time I saw a tiger, it would be as powerful. But what happened was our school happened to go to Tadoba Tiger Reserve, which is in Maharashtra. And over there, we happened to see a tiger again. But this time, the experience was completely different. This animal was surrounded by an army of jeeps. And it was, I mean, in many ways, it was just disgusting. To see this animal hounded by all these people. It was almost like a zoo. I could not tell the difference. That was what the environment was like. And so I think that really showed me how we have turned such a enormously powerful and graceful animal into a commodity. And that deeply disturbed me.
So that's a difficult balance, right? Because you want to inspire people to respect and love nature, but that can only happen if they do interact with that nature, right? So how do you balance that? Is there a balance?
Well, I can certainly say it's not balanced right now. I think we have veered too far towards this capitalistic outlook on nature where we have commodified it and where we are only looking out to make money. And I think we certainly need to pull back a little. So, is there a balance? I hope so. I can certainly say that we are way past that and we need to dial it back down.
Okay, and part of your journey to finding a way to dial it back is the most powerful thing we've invented in the last 5 years, Instagram. You're an Instagram influencer. Yeah. Do you take photos of food before you eat it?
No, I don't. And that
Don't
word.
tell
No, I don't.
lies.
I really don't. I find that word. I hate that word, but yeah,
But you
apparently,
are.
yeah,
But you are. You've
yeah,
got. I mean, 50,000, more than 50,000 now.
somewhere, yeah,
Somewhere there. And
yeah.
all your content is about nature and the environment and how you can look after it. So the most important thing we want to know is how much money do you make from
I get paid in bee stings and mosquito bites.
it?
But I have made more than enough in experiences, and I think that's what matters.
And we're lucky to be able to vicariously
Yeah.
enjoy that as well. Incredibly captivating photos and stories, everything, something simple from a grasshopper to megafauna like one-horned rhinos. You get to see them all and learn about them all, and uh, you might even bump into Faye D'Souza commenting or liking, or Vrajesh Hirji commenting and liking on the posts. It's
Yeah.
incredible. And we're going to come back to this journey because clearly your journey is not about you discovering the wild, but about making the wild's discoveries available to the young. And we'll talk about that. Actually, can we have a video on Eco Inspire for a minute? Is that okay with everyone? If you, it's a short video, but it's wonderful because you need to see what Ishan's using. Of course, he's written an incredible book, but see what he's leveraging his experience to impact. Yes?
What if you got that wing beat when something just flew? There are still wild spaces out there, and there are still wild creatures out there that are worth protecting. We can only protect them if we take action now. Eco Inspire can be summed up in one simple mission: to get people inspired and to get them to care for the natural world. That's the one thing I want to do. So, we've been visiting different institutions and talking to students about nature and wildlife. It's been beyond anything I could ever imagine. Give a round of applause. Slogan TROGON. This snake is the only snake that builds a nest. The female king cobra literally uses her body to create a mound of leaves within which she lays her eggs. Initially, I had set this vague yet ambitious goal of reaching 25,000 students across India. We ended up reaching 10,000 students in just 2 months. I'll give him, yeah.
If it's even a few hours old, the pomok will be at least a little faded by the surroundings.
By erosion. Okay, these are good instincts, I have to say. These are all good instincts, but you have not hit upon the nail. When you talk about nature and wildlife, it's easy to get carried away in the stories. But it is a fact that over the last 50 years, we have lost over 70% of all our wildlife. We've lost it to poaching, we've lost it to plastic pollution, and any number of reasons. Animals choking on plastics. I took this here in Bangalore, in Bannerghatta Road. We have lost wildlife because of wild spaces getting reduced by agriculture taking over forests. And then we have things like this. In this image, there are at least 10 tigers that have been killed. Why? Because someone believes wearing a tiger skin symbolizes power and status. Students from Bangalore to Hyderabad to Chennai to Trivandrum to Kozhikode to Chittor and all these cities and towns are so excited when we talk about these animals. You should really see the energy on their faces. It's so contagious. And I think that really speaks to the power of curiosity and the power of youth getting excited. Whenever something walks past the camera trap, it triggers the motion sensor. Spot the animal in this frame. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. No. One boy, one girl. So yeah, you come. Come. Yeah. Yes! Good job! I mean, you should see their burning thirst for knowledge and just the intense enthusiasm with which they want to learn more. Every year, I had to make this road trip from Bangalore to Kerala, and that would take me through Bandipur to go to Kozhikode. But I would look forward to that drive where I would sort of look outside the window and try and spot every animal that I could. It's a forest much like this only. Paradise flycatcher. Oh, that was nice. Female paradise flycatcher, yeah. I would just wonder about how many animals were just out there hidden from my sight. I used to keep journal entries, especially when I visited a wild landscape. And so I have so many journal entries for many years. I guess in many ways, the book was always in the making. This title just came to me. It's sort of a in the Shah moment, if you will. We were debating about whether it should be, me and my editor that is, we were talking about whether it should be the light of wild things or the light of wilder things. And I felt like the syllables fell better when you said the light of wilder things. There's a porcupine quill. This is such a funny animal to look at. They have the sort of bumbling way when they walk, and yeah, the sun is still quite sharp. I'm gonna hold on to this for a while. It's a very fitting name because the story is essentially me being enthralled by the light of wilder things, and the hope is that other people will bathe in that light as well. These are a small sliver of organizations that you can volunteer for. All it takes is sending them an email and saying, listen, I want to help. What can I do? I think we live in this sort of media climate of doom and gloom where we're sort of conditioned to believe that all is lost and we cannot save our wild landscapes. And I refuse to believe that because all my life experiences have pointed otherwise. And so the hope of the book is that other people will realize that we can take action now and preserve what we have left. I decided to head out for a morning stroll, hoping I'd catch a glimpse of the leopard. I knew the chances of spotting the cat were slim, yet I kept an eye out for the predator. But then, something was off. My neck tingled with fear. Suddenly, I had the distinct feeling of being watched. An ancient and never failing impulse. It might appear irrational and baseless, but it is genuine and it can spell the difference between life and death.
It's wise to save whatever we have, preserve whatever we have, but we are already in debt. So we are losing fast the nature. He was in our school also, Sri Sarada Devi Vidya Kendra in Chignali. The kids were very, very, very excited to listen to the stories.
Typically, what happens with banyan is that it's where it grows parasitically on another tree, engulfs it, and becomes its own tree. The beautiful thing about trees like this is that there are so many creatures that live within it. It's not only is it an organism, but it's a home to many other creatures. Like you can see right there only, there's this funky looking beetle.
This program is going to convert many children into wildlife enthusiasts just like Ishan. It's very inspirational to see young people, somebody like Ishan, who's probably around 20 years old, doing these things. And we know that our future is in safe hands.
These students give me incredible hope because they show me that there are still people out there willing to open their minds and learn about the natural world. I think these students will make a difference, and that's all that matters.
Wait, can I just say something before we continue? The person behind the film is in the audience right now, Samat Menon. Can we give him a round of applause? Yeah.
I mean, after you watch a video like that, who doesn't want to support everything that you do, right? I mean, I watched that video and I spoke to your dad. It was like anything, like whatever you ask for, I want to do it. And I, I disagree though with one thing where she said that uh, she meets you and you feel that our future is safe. I disagree. I think our future has hope. I don't think we're safe yet, but maybe if we give you enough support, we'll get to safe. But we're there. So you started out Eco Inspire. By the way, you keep playing like with the Malabar Trogon. I keep seeing it. How can it not be your favorite bird? Yeah. Like, sure, spotted owlet, so cute outside your classroom window and all, but look at that Trogon, man.
It is
Come
certainly
on.
the most flamboyant bird I've seen, but the spotted owlet will always be close to my heart.
I'm Parsi. I choose the flamboyant Trogon. So you started out saying that how many children did you want to impact with Eco Inspire?
Yeah, so I decided I was oscillating between 10,000 and 25,000, and there was no basis to this number. I just thought I want to reach as many people as possible. Let me go and speak, and let's see where this goes.
And how many kids have you spoken to date now?
As of now, 26,500 and counting.
Yes, well done. More than 25,000 kids have had the fortunate experience of interacting with you. But what's the plan with Eco Inspire going forward? What do you want to do with this? How old is it?
So it's, I think, 4 months old, 5 months old. We started in June. So that's what, June, July, August, September, October, November.
25,000 children in less than half a year, right? Like, look at this journey. So, what's next? What do you plan on doing with it?
You know, it's funny because I hit the goal that I set out for myself, but now it seems like things are only snowballing further. So we've gotten so many invites. So the next 2 months of mine are just booked. And so it's weird because I'm trying to set up time to meet my friends, and they're like, oh, Mr. Busy Man has no time for us. And it's not true. It's just that we happen to have a lot of engagements lined up for the next 2 months.
But Eco Inspire is going to do what? Uh, What what is the, if you had to give it a goal for a short 2 year goal, where would you like it to be? What would you like it to be doing?
So hopefully Eco Inspire grows into something that's beyond me. You know, I understand this event is also about me and celebrating my life, which is great. But I want the focus to be on these animals. I want it to be on nature, which is dwindling. And so I'm still ideating as to how many different avenues I can open this into. And so I'm thinking maybe a media platform and grow it in that direction. Maybe host in-person camps. That's the one piece of feedback I get a lot, where people say,
Yeah.
please host events for children and so on. And so there are different things I'm exploring. Once I finalize, I will let you know.
A-
Yeah.
And he'll be available outside having tea and coffee. So if you've got some ideas that you want to like shoot at him and hope something sticks, make sure you find us. Um, I like the idea of camps. I hope you don't give up your Instagram, because I started following you a couple of months ago when I spoke to your dad, and I'm addicted. I scrolled through everything that you've ever posted, and it's wonderful, especially for the kids. You know, there's this huge misnomer that Instagram and social media is bad for you. That's like saying television is bad for you. It's like saying before this, books are bad for you. No, it depends on what books, what television, and what social media. I promise you, his channel, wonderful. Um, but you use your channel and Eco Inspire in this pay it forward kind of thing, right? And you came from this culturally rich home and you had these culturally nature filled experiences in childhood. And in the book, you talk about these various teachers who were bird experts and the snake handlers. And, is this your way of paying it forward back to people?
Well, this is my way paying it forward for nature and wildlife. I can say that my life has been enriched by these creatures. You know, it's sort of given me something to live for. And this is the smallest thing I can do for these animals. I'm my happiest when I am with wildlife, and this is the smallest thing I can do for them.
And he's second happiest with people who are happiest with nature, because you're talking about how you were enriched, and in your book you talk about the Jain Kuruba, right? A very unique community in South India. uh, what was your experience with them and what did you learn from them?
Okay, so in the city, especially with my friends, I happen to be the person who can find wildlife where no one can. But compared to them, I am the biggest noob you will ever find. And noob for the older folks, it means someone who just doesn't know anything. right? Um, I I happen to do some work with these with the Jenu Kuruba tribals, and Jenu means honey in Kannada. So these are tribals who traditionally collect honey, and they have a way of reading the forest. They sort of see the forest as a book just waiting to be read. And so I can tell you numerous like occasions where I would walk with some of these tribals, and they would point at something and say, "Oh, a wild dog just went past here maybe 6 hours ago," and I'm looking and saying, "That is just sand." How did you see that? And it's funny enough, they look at holes in the ground and they say, "Oh, a snake has gone in." I'm like, "Wow, pretty cool." He's like, "This snake has gone in." I'm like, "Oh, very nice. So are you saying that if I open this, the snake will be in there?" He said, "No, it's also come out." And I'm like, "You know all of this? Like, am I blind?" These people have this sort of instinctive knowledge and this instinctive grasp on the forest. And if I can even attain 1% of their skill, I'll be in a different league.
Oh, wonderful. What a wonderful
Yeah.
experience with the Jenu Kuruba and the Kard Kuruba. I also learned from you reading your book. I grew up in a very literature first family, so grew up reading all Ruskin Bonds and Kenneth Anderson's. Uh, but you write in a very unique manner. It's this um, child innocence in the writing with a musical lyricism to the way you structure your sentences, with the, as ageist as it sounds, with the slightly sarcastic Gen Z of this generation. You have to hear the sentences he makes. They're gorgeous. I've written some of them down. Um, but I craved the raw wild, waited to once again be cast away amidst its enfolding green. Beautiful. And then a couple of pages after that, you read, Agumbe is the land that God, if she exists, probably created when she was high. And you're like, firstly, as a 19-year-old writing this book, what do you know about creating lands when you're high? Where did you learn to write? Though, I mean, your journey with nature and how you discovered it and got inspired from it, we quite nicely understand. But putting it down in a way that, as Mrs. Kinney put it, right, in one fell swoop, the whole book, once you start, you don't want to stop. It's like this wholesome, enriching soup that you don't want to, you want to slurp the last line. How did you give yourself that skill?
I think there have been two primary influences in how I read, especially how I wrote this book. One are, of course, the legendary nature writers that have come before me. And so, in fact, when I was at Rishi Valley, one of the legacies I wanted to leave at school was my name on the library card of every wildlife book. So, if you go to Rishi Valley and if you go to the wildlife section, you enter and you turn left, it's the second shelf. You will find that all the wildlife books have my name. That is the one thing that I owned in that school. And so reading those authors, and there are many, I can throw names just like that. A.J.T. Johnson, M. Krishnan, Kenneth Anderson. Oh, there's a whole list of heroes of mine. And so I think reading those books, of course, played a role in how I then wrote this. But I also will say that as I wrote this, I didn't want this to be a dry nature book. That's one of the earliest pieces of feedback I got from some of my friends who I gave this to for critiquing. And so I realized that I happen to be a reasonably funny guy. I want to inject some humor into the writing. And I don't think comedians get enough credit for this, but they happen to be incredible writers. I mean, it might look impromptu, but their performances are scripted to the word and to the pause. And so I happen to see these comedians and try and study how they wrote and try to reverse engineer their thoughts and then injected that. So that particular line, I remember adapting that from maybe it's something from Trevor Noah, and so that's how I got that. Yeah.
He's got a list. One of the great signs of someone so comfortable and confident in their skin is their willingness to recommend others. And at the end of his book, he's not telling you, now buy my next book. He's got a list, a very diplomatic list, because you put it in alphabetical order so no one gets offended, of other books that you should read. But what are your three favorites?
Yeah, I will tell you those three favorites, but I will say, I think people, especially those who haven't read the book, look at it and they say, oh, you must be an expert. If you read the book, you'll realize that I am a noob, and you know what noob means now, right? I am a noob. The book is, half of it is basically me in the company of greats and me learning from them. I think the ones that I would recommend are, I'd recommend Lawrence Anthony. He's a man who had a parcel of land in Africa, and he happened to adopt a herd of elephants into this parcel of land. It's called The Elephant Whisperer, and it is an incredibly moving book. I am of the opinion that books with emotion, especially about wildlife, happen to hit the reader a lot better as opposed to those dry academic texts. No shade. I mean, I'm not trying to throw shade, but I fall on this side of the spectrum. I will also say Dr. Jane Goodall, who's recently passed away. Her book on hope, she's one of my heroes. I mean, if she's someone I wish I could have met. And so that's another piece of writing I will recommend. The last person I will recommend is a South Indian writer from Tamil Nadu. His name is, he's not a writer, I mean, he's a field biologist. He happened to write. His name is AJT Johnson. He's also someone who passed away a few years ago. And he happened to do a lot of work in Bandipur. And so it's funny, when I went to work in Bandipur for a while, I remember walking along those trails and recalling his writing and his time studying the Indian wild dog. And so these are the three that I have for you. If you want more, meet me afterwards. I'll give you a whole book on recommendations for other books. Yeah.
But your book is not just about wildlife, right? I mean, I love reading about when you were studying in Ashoka after Rishi Valley, when you'd hop onto a bus and go to Agra or Jaipur or Manali and wherever. And interestingly, in that time, there seemed to be a little shift in what you were talking about. You started talking about people and the people you met. You even have a little book over there that you talk about uh, 100 faces.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
am I saying it right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100 faces. What captivated you there, and are you ever going to return to, I think, portrait photography, as Mrs. Kinney mentioned as well?
So I happened to be of the opinion earlier that I just wanted to be with wildlife, and only in nature. But what happened, especially when I went to study in North India, was that when you travel, you just end up meeting a lot of people. And one of the conscious decisions I made when I was in North India was to explore all the surrounding states. And when I did this, I happened to run across people from, I mean, let's say Uttarakhand, UP, Himachal, Rajasthan, Punjab, and Delhi itself, Haryana, and so many other places. And I found that there was all these people, while they hailed from different places, had this common humanity and this simpleness that I think is so lacking in urban environments. You know, as I would find this just simple, genuine humanity in all these folks in rural areas. And so what I happened to do is I would ask them if I could take a portrait, and then I created a series of 100 people that I happened to meet across uh, these trips, just celebrating the common humanity that binds them all.
And it's beautiful. You get snippets of this as well in the book. I can't tell you how roller coastery this book is. It's really for all the men over here. You'll really reminisce about your journey of discovery of the world as a young adolescent, as a young man. It's beautiful, and you don't just discover people and animals. You keep circling back to your diving in Mafushi.
Hmm.
Yeah, I the way you talk about your diving seems like you actually, I think you're more excited by the jungles, but I think you're more in love with the ocean.
I will say, ocean I think evokes a different part of myself, and I think it does this in a lot of us. I think hearing that rhythmic lapping of the waves on the beach has, I'm sure there's some scientific evidence backing this sort of meditative effect on the mind. And I happen to be very lucky in exploring a small parcel of the ocean and seeing just the incredible, colorful diversity of life that exists just below the waves. And in fact, people often ask me, "What's your favorite animal?" And that changes minute to minute. But right now, I happen to be fascinated with whales. Just think about it. Right now, as you and I live and breathe in this room, 3,000 kilometers to my right, there is the largest creature to have ever existed in the history of the universe. The blue whale, larger than any dinosaur, larger than any elephant. Obviously, an elephant can fit inside the mouth of a blue whale. Just imagine the largest creature to have ever existed in the entire fossil record is out there right now. And I think that gets me so excited.
Yeah, it is exciting. So, have you got certified as a diver, or is that part of your 20s plan?
No, I happen to be an advanced open water diver.
Ah, excellent.
I mean, but these are just labels. If you want, go swim, you can find something.
Yeah, but don't dive without getting certified, and don't let snakes bite you unless you really, really can identify them.
Yeah,
Bad.
I don't recommend catching snakes at all, at least on record.
No, Ishan. Yeah. You've got so many things. What great experiences. The best photo that you've got in this book is an incredible photo of that blue pant wearing canvas shoe tiger, leopard. You know what I'm talking about?
That happens to be me.
That's him.
Okay.
That's him
yeah.
walking across his own camera trap.
Uh,
Yeah.
I'll give you the context. Basically, when you place a camera trap, you need to test if it works. And so you're camera trapping for leopards. Okay, so do you know what a camera trap is? A trail camera is a motion activated camera that you keep in the forest and you leave in the forest hoping an animal walks by. This is just to study animals that you can't observe with your naked eye. And so with leopards, especially, when you place a camera trap, you have to keep it at shoulder length from the ground with your palm touching the floor. And so we happened to keep these camera traps, and I had to see if it was working. So I became a leopard and walked in front of it, and I still have those images of me looking at the camera like that. It's not a pretty sight. No.
What is the science behind selecting the ideal? I know that you complain about the maths and the science of it and you hate it, but tell us about it because I'm genuinely curious, right? If you're walking in a jungle, where do you put the camera trap? How do you select the spot?
So the predicament scientists are faced with is how do you count an animal that you can't see, right? I have spent a lot of time running after leopards in particular, and let me tell you, they are not easy to find. And so scientists have developed this method of putting camera traps and just getting pictures of animals. And especially with leopards and tigers, they happen to have a unique pattern of stripes or spots on their body. It's sort of their fingerprint equivalent. And so this might be a little technical, but scientists have developed a very simple formula of estimating the number of animals in the forest by just counting by using the number of times the same animal has been repeated. And so if you get two pictures of an animal, of the same animal in two different surveys, you can sort of use that, and there's some maths behind it. Don't ask me, I don't know, but there is some maths behind it, using which you can get a good estimate at what the animal population is. And so I happen to be a small part of the long-term study of leopards within Karnataka. And so that's when this happened. Did I see a leopard in that survey? No. Okay.
But you got another really amazing experience, a unique experience of putting his fingers into fresh bear poop to feel what it's just eaten.
So,
So that or the snake bite?
no. Oh, no.
No, I'm joking. Just
Just
tell us about the bear poop.
So back then, I wasn't very well versed in animal poop as I am now. And what happened was we happened to find this, and I was like, "Oh, what is this?" And the researcher who I was with saw a clever opportunity to embarrass me, especially because I only had one water bottle, and so if I use my water, so okay, I'll tell you what happened. Basically, you're walking. We saw this, and this was unlike all the dung that we had seen earlier. We happened to do this in the Hills, which is part of the Kaveri Wildlife Sanctuary belt, and this was unlike the heaps of cow dung that we had seen across the forest. And so instead of just telling me the answer, the researcher who I was with said, "You see that? Go touch it." And I thought, okay, he's joking, very funny. But he just looks at me. He's like, "Touch it." I'm like, "Really?" And then he says, "Yes." And he's like, "Touch it, feel it, see what it's like." And so I kneeled down, and all those flies got off, and I put my fingers inside, and it was still slimy, so it was clearly fresh. And I could feel that this deposit had seeds along with fragments of bone, and that really confused me because if there are fragments of bone and hair, it's quite clearly a predator. It could be a tiger or a leopard. If it has seeds, then it's something that eats fruits, and tigers and all don't do that. And so seeing that, I could tell that it was of a sloth bear because that's one animal that happens to have a foot in both worlds.
And how do you
Yeah.
easily identify a leopard? And because if anyone's gone on a safari in Bandipur or anywhere, everyone is like, "Sir, see, sir, just now it passed." Says leopard poop.
Yeah.
Everyone, if you've not seen a tiger, but you've seen the pug mark and you've seen the poop. So how do
Yeah.
we know for sure whether it's leopard poop, leopard scat, or tiger scat?
With leopards, tigers, and wild dogs, of course, the content is fairly the same. It's often samba deer hair or gaur hair. Gaur is the Indian wild cattle, and so on and so forth. I think if it's a very large deposit, you can rule out leopard. And if it is scattered across the trail, it's probably a wild dog. Wild dogs are so indecent, they just shit everywhere. But tigers and leopards happen to neatly defecate on the side of the road, and they also happen to um, scrape the ground. That's another way of indicating their presence. So within tiger and leopard, it's I'm not qualified enough to give an answer, but between that and wild dog, I can say. And if it's a big deposit, it has to be a larger animal like a tiger.
I know we're getting close to our time. We'll just end with you talking about that momentous moment when you did finally spot your leopard. Since we're talking about it right now, let's talk about that, because eh, that's towards the end of your book and it's clearly a climactic moment for you.
So I happened to take a trip to a village in the Himalayas on my own because I wasn't really going through a good time at that moment. And so I happened to go up alone into the forest. Please don't ever do that. Right? I woke up, I remember waking up at 3:34, looking out, it was still dark, and I could just see the vague outline of the mountain. And before I could talk myself out of doing this, I didn't even have a torch or anything. I took my phone, the light, and I just started walking up. And obviously, I lost my way, which I mean, I was happy about, at least for the first half of that trip. And what happened was, as I walked in front and I was rounding this bend, from the corner of my eye, I saw something move. And I was like, what was that? Because it was a large animal, clearly. And in the Himalayas, you don't really encounter wildlife at the frequency you'd expect, especially in a southern Indian forest. You don't see them as often. So I'm like, was it a langur? The Himalayan langurs are quite common, especially in Uttarakhand. But I'm like, no, this wasn't really, gray. Then was it a bear? Because there are a lot of Himalayan black bears there. But this wasn't black. And I remember seeing a tail. And so in my heart, I thought, maybe it's a leopard. And I remember going closer to that section. Also, if you think you've seen a leopard, you should probably run away. Okay. But I went a little forward. And there was this rock and bush behind it. And so I was just scanning the area and just faintly impressed in the mud next to the rock, I saw the faint pug mark of a leopard. So, okay, this confirmed that this was a leopard. And I thought, is the leopard still in the vicinity or has it run away? And as I scanned the bush, I saw a small opening at the bottom of the bush. And in my heart, I knew the leopard was over there. I took one step forward. And to find out what happened after that, you will have to read the book.
Spoiler alert, he makes it back.
Yeah.
Okay. The book ends with him returning back to Rishi Valley. It's a very, not melancholic, but it's a very unique emotion, right? After you've gone through a whole journey, you've molted from, as you mentioned, shed your skin to grow into something bigger, molted like the butterfly, etc. And you've come back, and now you're talking to the students of your own school through the eyes of an older person, but still young enough to recognize. Very emotional. I got all choked up as I read about it. It's beautiful. But before we go to questions, and we're going to have questions, I want to end by telling you and the audience that to summarize what kind of person Ishan is, his afterword, like his forward, his afterword ends with these lines: I don't feel valiant. I don't feel special. I just smile, certain of only one thing, that the wild will always remain a part of me. It's just like, that's just who he is, right? He's a beautiful human being and can't wait to get to know you more. But first, questions.
Yeah, so I think about 5, 6 years ago when we met, I remember we were out and he was taking these very good pictures. And I asked him, where can I see all your pictures? And I remember very clearly, and this stays with me till date, is that you said, I never want to post it because I don't want to chase likes and, consent from people. And I don't want to, if I like a certain picture, I don't want to put it out and then feel bad that I haven't received enough likes. Fast forward today, you're an Instagram influencer, as Darius said. So, do you see yourself battling this thing to be on the social media with a very conservative topic like wildlife, which has always been off social media? How do you see yourself? Like, you want to reach people, you want to stay true to what it is and to yourself.
What a great
what's-
question.
what
What a
is
great
that?
question. What a great question.
So Pooj happens to be a friend of mine for many years. And what happened, at least back then, was I sort of saw social media as a personal vanity project. I wanted to see if the world thought I was as cool as I thought of myself. But then I realized over a few years that instead I should look at it as a vehicle to reach others. This isn't really about me. I happen to be the channel through which I can speak about these creatures. And that's why I always try and direct people's attention back to the animals, because that's what is cool. I just happen to be the person speaking about it. And so right now I don't care about the likes, this thing. I really don't. Like, it just doesn't matter to me. What matters is whether the message is reaching those who need to hear it. I think we all operate in this algorithmic thunderdome of so many things hitting us on social media, and I want this to break through that. And that's how I look at social media right now.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Sir, you had a question, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Fantastic work you are doing. And a few words about Education Murthy's teaching's influence on you in your journey, in your amazing and extraordinary journey.
So I happen to not be the most well versed with him. I'm ashamed to say it, having studied in his school. But what I will say is a lot of his teachings are implicit in life in that school. So, for example, uh, as part of our school routine, we had to spend time from 6 to 6:30 sitting on the hillside and just staying quiet. There happened to be this one hillside, and we just had to meditate. And I remember fidgeting. I remember plucking this leaf and like looking at this like hair and so on. And I remember my teacher telling me, Ishan, try and not move for the next 20 minutes. And I didn't quite get it. I'm like, what's the problem? But I think this was something that Krishnamurti wanted you to do, wanted you to just sit and be able to observe your own thoughts. And so that's something that I took from him. I will say, though, that when I wrote this book, I happened to have the interesting challenge of choosing epigraphs. Epigraphs are the quotes that you add before each chapter. And I thought it was only fitting that the first Rishi Valley chapter had a quote from Krishnamurti. So I took one of his books, his Commentaries on Living, Volume 2, or whichever one it was called, and I read it. I think it's still too philosophical for my taste. I still happen to be a young 22-year-old person. But I happen to find a lovely quote where he talked about his resonance with nature, and that's something I connect with him very deeply on. Yeah, thank you.
Despite everything else, we have to keep reminding ourselves that he's just turned 22.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Oh, wonderful. Can you tell us your name, please?
Amara.
Nice to meet you. What's your question?
So, from the book you made and all the children you met, from this day, what do you look back at yourself as?
Ooh, good
Well,
question.
can I ask you to spell out that last part a little more? What do I look at myself as? Yeah.
Is that your question?
Oh, well, yeah. Well, I mean, I could take some emotional counseling from you, because that that isn't something that I've done yet. I will say that there's so much more to look forward to, that I haven't quite reached the stage of having enough to look back on. That's my opinion. I still feel like there's so much more left for me to live through, so that I have enough material to then look back on. And so I hope to live a little more and then do that. But thank you, though. That's a smart kid.
That's a great question, because you've triggered him to
Yeah,
think in a
yeah.
particular way. And also,
Yeah.
I love with what honesty you answer and you write, right? I mean, this is such a great opportunity for Ishan to give us some profound mic drop moment of what he sees himself as having. But no, he's just honestly, actually, I've not done it.
Yeah.
I love
No,
it.
no,
Rishi.
no.
And the book is this beautiful, innocent honesty that's just chicken soup for your soul and mind.
I think if you meet people in my life, they will tell you that I still have the mental capacity of a 6-year-old, and I am actually a little proud of that. Yeah.
All right. We have time for one more question, if there's a question. Otherwise, yes, ma'am, in front. There's a question in front.
Lots of excitement, 50K followers, Ishan. Very proud, I'm sure. What was the most difficult thing in this journey?
In the whole journey, you mean the journey that
Writing
the book
of the
comprises?
book, talking about nature, making the movies, making the reels,
The reels are fun.
posting every day.
that is also all right. You know what the hardest thing is?
Hmm.
Writing a book is not easy. It is perhaps one of the most traumatic things I've gone through, because even writing the first manuscript, the first draft, which was 70,000 odd words, that was perhaps 10% of the whole journey, or maybe not 10%, maybe 2% of the whole journey. The rest, 98%, was just editing, editing, and editing. And once you're at your breaking point, you edit it 10 times more. I remember I you would need such mental peace, and you would even need a space to edit, because that's just what something like this takes. I remember tricking the guards at my university into thinking that I was a teacher so that I could use the faculty lounge and sit and write, because I told them I have papers to correct, I cannot just sing. And they would, the bhaiyas would very kindly allow me to sit in the conference room and edit, because that's just what this took. I think editing a book and then designing it, and I will say, like, I had two editors. Okay, one was the editor I was working with, and the other one was my father. And these two people are perhaps the two people I know in my life who have the work ethic of many horses put together. Okay, and I love that, because I like the intensity. But I will say that this book really it broke me a little bit, and I happen to be reaping the benefits now, finally. But while I was writing it, it was tough. Yeah, I mean that's what life's all about, right? So, yeah, yeah.
Says the 22-year-old.
Yeah.
Any other question, or shall we end the session with the last reading of the book? Yeah. All right. Shall I do that instead of you?
So Darius and I were talking about this, and I happen to be a very impassive reader of my own book. It's because I've read this book a lot. I cannot open the book again because I've read it so much. So I think Darius will do it justice.
Done. Yes. We had this discussion. Who should read it? Staring at the forested mountains, I imagined the trees as tiny as insects, ants in a giant colony. As far as the eye could see, the trees stretched, hectares and hectares of them, the furthest finally vanishing over the mountaintop. I thought about all the animals inhabiting that vast forest before me. In the unseen corners of the jungle, animals were moving about. The jays, bulbuls, langurs, leopards, bears, all of them thinking their thoughts and doing their things in the shadow of these snowy peaks. And sitting at the pass, it was bizarre to think that so many animals below were going about their own lives. And what about humans? At that very moment, 8 billion of us, from Mauritius to Japan to Australia, all going about their lives, engrossed in their thoughts. And I wondered, were we all part of the same world? And a large bird soared into my vision. A yellow underbelly with orange hues and a long tail told me that it was a lemurgrier, a bearded vulture found only at these heights. I'd been waiting for years to see this dragon-like bird. The vulture's shadow flitted across the terrain. I observed it dash towards the mountainside, the bird and shadow approaching each other at a speed you'd have to see to believe. For a moment, I thought the wind currents would slam it into the opposite hillside. In my mind, I screamed, "Watch out!" to the bird. But at that right moment, the bird turned its wings and drifted away, revealing the air currents ribboning into the sky. In the bird's mind, I imagined the vast mountain with a tiny human figure with a fizzy mop of curls staring up at it. The vulture swerved close by, and my head roared with a single thought: "You've come to me." To the bird, I would have appeared so tiny on that summit. It was such a peculiar feeling so small. Compared to the vastness around me, I wasn't even a pinprick. I wasn't scary. I wasn't comforting. It was very strange. And I felt incredibly moved. For reasons I couldn't fathom, an emotion foreign to me welled up in my eyes. Courage or fear? It was hard to say. Something about being tiny and alone on that rock high up in the Himalayas swelled in my heart. Before I knew it, I was weeping, my heart out, emotions venting in reams of tears. I looked back, but still can't. I've looked back, but still can't explain the weight of that moment. I recalled looking into the dead porcupines' vacant eyes near my university and pondering the fate of all the wild creatures of our world. Gazing at the boundless panorama now, I knew one thing for sure. There were still places out there that were wild and untamed. I wasn't born in the wrong era. The world I inhabited still had wild places, too immense for one person on one rock. Nature did endure. And sensing the winds were right, the birds soared into the distance as if beckoning me to join. Strange melancholy washed over me as the bird sang its lamenting cry, soaring higher and higher. Soon, nothing but a speck in the sky. A blink, and it was gone. Gorgeous. Gorgeous writing. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ishan. Thank you for giving me this chance to join you. Thank you.